Hey everybody, thanks for tuning in. Behind me, 2008 Chevy Cobalt. We're gonna be doing a timing job. Timing chain, sprockets, and tensioner. So if you need to do this on your Cobalt, follow along. So first thing we wanna do is jack the vehicle up, put it on jack stands. We wanna drain the oil. So apparently I hit time warp on my GoPro. So it kind of messed up this little section. All I've done is taken the air box off. There's a clamp on the throttle body, a little push connector, one little hose that comes off, and then undoing the air filter housing, and the whole thing should lift up and out. Then we're pulling off the serpentine belt. So jack the car up, take the tire off, and pull off that little plastic shield by the wheel well. Then with a special tool you can get from the auto parts store if you don't already own one, but it's just a slender little tool with a 3/8 ratchet end on it. We put that on our tensioner pulley, counterclockwise, and then we can pull our belt off. All right, back to the show. And while we're down here, we'll pull the crank pulley off, 21mm. And it should come right out. They're not really pressed on. Should slide out like that. And then we have our belt tensioner. Has to come off right through here. It's a 15mm. We want to jack up the engine just a smidge so you can get that in there to pull it off. But first we want to take our engine mount off. Our engine mount lives right here. We want to support the engine with a jack under the oil pan and a block of wood. Then we have three 15mm bolts we'll take off first. Okay. And then two 18mm bolts we'll pull off next. Or their nut, the two nuts. Gets this bracket out of the way. So now let's jack up the engine just a smidge. We have this other bracket we have to get off attached to the block. They're all 18mm bolts. You don't need to go up too far, just a little more. The two bolts on top are easy to get to. That bottom bolt is a little challenging. We'll get that with an 18mm wrench. Alright, that should just come right out with the bolt. The bolt can't come out on its own because it hits the frame, so it all comes out with the bolt. Alright, now let's go under and get our tensioner pulley off through that little keyhole. It's just an extension with a 15mm socket. We'll pop that through. Now if we need to, we can raise or lower the engine to get it right on there. Pop it loose, there we go. Very carefully, we'll pull our bolt out. Having a magnet is the best. There we go. Just like that. And the tensioner's out. Might be hard to see in the camera, but there's a slot right here in the frame. We want to take some tape and cover that slot, because when we pull this cover off, oil's going to drip out. And if oil gets in that slot, it drips down the frame way back there, and then it just makes a mess. So by covering this hole with a piece of tape, then the oil won't get in the hole, it'll just drip from the top of the tape and then down this little channel here. So now pulling off the timing cover. There's a couple of bolts you get from up top. They're 10mm. There's one 15mm right there, but the rest are 10mm. Some you get from the bottom. It's gonna be hard to film me actually doing it, but just to point those out where they are. So we got all the bolts out and you can already see that oil starting to drip out. So just make sure you have a catch pan. That piece of tape protects. You can see it would have went right in that hole right there, and it wouldn't come out until way past your catch pan. So now we can just go ahead, pull this completely off. Let me use two hands. I'll set you up on the stand. Nice. All right, now we'll just let that drip. Let's go up top, start pulling off the valve cover. The valve cover is pretty easy. Pull off our ignition coils. Now these gray tabs just get pushed back and then you pinch, and it's just a regular pinch connector. Now we want to pull our bracket for the fuel hose off. 10mm back here, 10mm on the side. Now it's just a series of 10mm bolts around the perimeter. And the valve cover should just slide right out. And there we go. That gives us access to our top chain guide, 10mm. Now we do want to pull our exhaust cam sprocket off. Let's see, I believe it's a 18 millimeter. There we go. Before we pop that all the way off, I forgot a step. Let me crank the engine over. Okay, let me zoom you in a little. It's not showing up the best, but right here on the intake side, it says INT. You want that about a 45-degree angle, and that'll put this side, the exhaust, should say EXH. You want that about a 45, also opposing each other. That's cylinder 1 at top dead center. So this is where we want our timing. 32 millimeter gets our tensioner off right here in the back. There we go. Should just screw out. There we go. Now this is more loose to just come right off. There we go. Then we'll pull our other one off as well. So I have a different video with this engine that's out. Because filming won't be that great over here, I'll show you how to set the timing up, and then all you have to do is just do it on the side here. But everything is easily accessible through the wheel well and a little bit up here. But you'll see that on the other video, so I'll shoot you over that way. Once the timing's done, we throw the valve cover gasket on. I'll give you the torque for that, and then we'll fire it up. Okay, so the cam sprockets are exactly the same. It doesn't matter which one goes on which side. This is the intake side. We want that INT to be about a 45-degree angle. And then same with the EXH on this side, we want it to be about a 45-degree angle. So we want this keyway to be 90 degrees straight up. So let's put this back on and turn it just enough. Right about there. Okay, so let's put our sprockets on down here. So first we want our big gear on, and there's a front and nothing on the back. So the front goes facing out. There we go. And then this one has a dimple on it. The other side, no dimple. So we want the dimple pointing out. And those are our timing marks. Perfect. We want the unique colored link to be here on the intake side. So we'll move this around and put it right there on that tooth. Okay. So now we're gonna work clockwise. So we have this one right here where it needs to be. Now our second colored link, or our next one, needs to be on the dot on our big back gear here in the front. Okay, I'm just gonna put my finger on it like that. Now we're gonna take up this slack right here. Let's go ahead and take up that slack. Okay, perfect. Now slack is taken up. Now we'll come around. Now on the water pump, it does not matter how that lays. All right, and it actually may help to pull one of these bolts out. They had us put that on first, but it might be easier to just have it off for now. Okay, there we go. And now let's put it on this last one here. There we go. Okay, so that's what you gotta do. You gotta put it over the water pump before putting it over this one. Just double check, colored, colored, and colored. Now let's put the guide on. Drop my bolt. All right, now you should be able to pull the pin on your tensioner, and let's get some torque specs. So our top chain guide bolts are 133 inch-pounds. Everything else is 89 inch-pounds. Okay, our balance shaft timing is in. Now we'll put on our main timing. All right, so again, we have 3 links, 2 the same color, 1 unique. The unique goes on the intake timing mark. So you want to put the timing chain through the top. You want to make sure the timing chain goes on both sides of the block boss. You'll see it in there. It's like a, I don't know how to describe it, but it's a little blockage here. You want it to go on both sides of that. There we go. This takes a little finesse. Okay, this will go around the crank bolt. So the colored link, I don't know where I put it. Okay, the unique one here. So now we'll put our intake cam on, or the cam sprocket on, so it lines up. That'll go on like that. Perfect. Now I'll just finger tighten this. Okay, we'll leave that for now. Now we'll put our long chain guide through the top. The bolt hole goes down. So right through the top like that. And it gets bolted right there. All right, again, we'll do all the torquing last. All right, so now we'll get our other cam on. So we want to make sure this link also lines up with that mark. So what we might have to do actually is just tighten up the crank a little. Turn it clockwise to get that slack out of the chain. There we go. So now we'll go up with this side. Make sure that lines up still. So we'll get our exhaust. The EXH goes on that other color. Perfect. Now we might have to move the exhaust cam just a little. So let me grab something to do that with. So we're just gonna move this till it lines up. There we go, perfect. Now I'll put our bolt in there. And then last, we wanna put this on here. It goes up through there, and then right in here. May help to have a magnet if you need. Our guide bolts are 89 inch-pounds. We got 3 of those. So this cap bolt, we want to put just a little RTV on the threads. All right, now this is a whopping 59 foot-pounds. We don't want to forget our upper guide. Those also are 89 inch-pounds. So before we can torque these, we have to put our tensioner in. Let's get a torque on that. That is 55 foot-pounds with a 32 millimeter socket. All right, now these are 63 foot-pounds plus 30 degrees. Make sure our timing marks are still in the right spot. Good. Now 30 degrees. So you got our 90 would be here, 45 would be here, so just a little less than 45 will be 30. Our timing is set and done. We're ready for our timing cover and our valve cover to go back on. Let's take a quick water break, and when we come back, we'll start doing this. So now what we want to do is get our front seal out. Now you can get a screwdriver from this back side and pop it out from this direction, out this way. Or, let me see if I got it here. Found it. You can take a big screwdriver from this end and just pop that seal off, just like that. Now we want to take our new seal. I'm going to throw just a little bit of lubricant on the outside of it. Doesn't take a lot, just to help it go in. I'm just going to tap that in. You could probably even just press it in with your fingers. These usually aren't in very tight. Just press it in until it bottoms out. Yeah, see, my fingers is all it needed. I'm going to throw a little lubricant on the inside here as well for when it slips over that crankshaft. All right, front cover is good to go on. Let me pull you around to the block, and there's a place we need to put our TV. So we're gonna take our scraper and scrape right here where the 2 case halves come together. We just wanna get that nice and clean the best we can. Plastic scraper is the best for this. Getting it from different angles is helpful. Now it doesn't have to come all the way off, just get the bulk of it. Take some brake clean with a rag, clean that off. And we can actually just clean the whole surface off. So we get a nice clean mating surface. We're gonna throw a dab right here where the case halves come together. Nice good dime size, maybe a little smaller than a dime, just right there. When the gasket goes on, that'll squish out. All right, our gasket should only go on one way. There's dowels on the sides that'll help it stay in place, just like that. Wanna make sure this surface is nice and clean, and then it's ready to go on. And there we go. The dowels also line up perfectly. We start putting our bolts in. This long bolt here is for our water pump. So just like all the RTV, we want to suck it all down until it starts to squish out. Follow directions on your RTV bottle, and then we'll torque these down. Our belt tensioner is 33 foot-pounds. I'm going to leave the crank pulley off just to give us that little extra room while putting the engine back in. So that buttons up our front. Now that you have the cover on and torqued, we can put this back. Having a magnet is the best for this bolt. We'll go ahead, slip it in. the bolt through, perfect. Almost lost my socket. And we lost it. No worries, if that happens to you, don't panic. I used to panic. So having a magnet like this with a flex, hopefully it's strong enough to get my socket. There we go. There, nice, nice. Just twist a little. Come on. Almost got it. Grab it again. Got it. Woo! Put our crank pulley back on. And then you just want to wipe around, make sure it's nice and clean. Maybe put a little oil or grease around that so it slips in over the seal. Perfect. It should just slide on one way and you'll feel it bottom out. Put our bolt on. I'll give you a torque for that. That is 74 foot-pounds plus 125 degrees. We'll put our belt back on and we're done from down here. Once you got your timing set, we can put the valve cover on. New valve cover gasket. Just kind of slips right in. You just want to watch your gasket, make sure it doesn't snag on anything on its way in. Watch your wiring. There we go, up and over. Perfect. Now this is a blue gasket, so you can just look around and make sure it's still in its channel. Looks good. Now we can tighten her down. I'll give you the torque specs for that. And we just have the two brackets for our fuel line. Let's see, that goes up and over, that goes over. Now our ignition coils, new spark plugs if you want them. Now's a good time. Now we can put our intake ducting back on. Let's see, that's for the mass airflow. All right, we're gonna start it up, moment of truth. All right, that's how you can do a timing job on a Chevy Cobalt. Not the worst, you get it done in a couple of hours. A little technique to it, but again, there are worse cars out there. All right, thanks for watching. Like, subscribe. See you on the next one.